I think it's just the fact that we're always trying to think about what other people want from us instead of just being who we are and giving the best of what we can give. And people will receive that.
Welcome to the Game of Herown podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Herown podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here.
Setting goals is the easy part. It's the action you take once you set those goals that can become the difficult part. Let me ask you a question. How do you consistently show up for yourself to get what you want? Do you put in the work every single day? I know you're nodding your head, yes. But let me ask you one more question. What if you were putting in the work, hard, grueling work, and someone told you it was bad? Would you have the courage to keep showing up, to keep trying again? My next guest, Brooke Weisbrod, broadcaster for ESPN, went through that very scenario. Y'all, she sent in her reel to ESPN and they came back to her and said, it was bad. Now, what I love about this story is how Brooke handled the feedback, like a goddamn champion. Honestly, I love everything about Brooke's outlook on life and her career, and I know you will too. All right, Game of Herown listeners, let's do this. Brooke, welcome to the Game of Herown podcast. I am so happy you're here.
This is cool, Jahaan. Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready to do it.
Yes. Okay. I was reading your bio and you were such, like I was telling you earlier, you are a badass. Like you may be the daughter that my dad dreams of having, like playing all the sports in high school and stuff. Like he really tried to get me to play more than just soccer. And I was like, nah, like I'm good. Like just one sport for me. And you played all the sports. But before we even get into anything, take us back in time and tell us when you first fell in love with sports.
I have to give the credit to being the youngest in my family. Well, the youngest at the time. I had 2 older sisters who were both big athletes as well. And so were my mom's sisters. My aunts were also big athletes. So between them there just really wasn't an opportunity not to play sports. And I was born with a ton of energy, which is, I think, why I played so many sports. And my mom was like, get out of the house. I need you to go get some of this energy out, please. So I think those were like the first memories of, growing up, having a big backyard, playing football, playing basketball, playing like home run derby, kickball, all the cool things that, we could do as kids. And growing up in like a small town, you could just leave the house and be outside all day and not worry about really, anything, but just getting on your bike and going to meet up with the neighbors and your friends. And so we also had, friends who were just this big family. It was a family of 9, and there were 2 boys, 7 girls in that family. And just about everybody played sports there also. So it was just like, we were always around it. I begged my mom to, try to do everything I could from even like, karate. And she's like, no, you actually have to like take piano or do something else. But I don't know. I guess it was just kind of introduced to me by assimilation, by being around it so much.
It's just part of your DNA. Like you don't know any other lifestyle.
Right. Yeah,
other than sports. Okay. Why don't you tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for?
I am a sports broadcaster for ESPN. I announce mostly college basketball games, men's and women's games, and also do reporting. That's probably the main role I have at ESPN. I've also done some social media for them at times. And learning other skills right now, trying to do some play-by-play so I can be as versatile as possible.
right? When you look at a title, everyone's always like, oh, they got this amazing title and here they are, they're ESPN broadcaster. But did you always know that's what you wanted to do?
Not at all. I remember my first big dream was to be a professional tennis player. That was the first, like, this is what I want to do and get locked in on. I was obsessed with tennis when I saw Andre Agassi for the first time. And once me and my mom realized like how expensive, well, it was mostly her. Once she realized how expensive that sport was, she was like, yeah, you go on and figure out something else because that's probably not going to happen. Then it became, I had dreams of like working for an advertising agency, making commercials, like Gatorade commercials, Nike commercials. For some reason, I was obsessed with advertising also. The ESPN thing didn't really come up. The idea and dream of it didn't come up until after I got hurt. I got hurt when I was 21 and I was on my way to Germany to go play professionally. And I still did, but my career was like cut really short. I ended up injuring my back pretty badly. So after that, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, I can't imagine having a life and a career that does not involve sports, but I didn't have any patience to coach at the time. And so I really got inspired to get into broadcasting by chance. I was down at Coastal Carolina where I went to college and I was doing an interview during the game and the game kept going on and we just accidentally started broadcasting the game. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want to do. So from there, it was a long pursuit, but I never grew up thinking, I watched SportsCenter all the time, but never thought like, hey, that's what I want to do for my job.
What you do now, which a lot of women would, and men, but let's talk about women, would like kill for what you're doing. It kind of happens by accident. That's what I hear you saying, right?
The inspiration happened by accident. And after that, I was very intentional about continuing to pursue it. And it was during the early 2000s. So it wasn't like YouTube existed. There was no clear-cut path or a way to do it. So my mom and her husband, they have a background in some production and doing some shows for like Procter and Gamble and stuff back in the day. So I had them come up to Chicago. We rented out a booth at the ESPN Zone. Like I convinced the manager to let us have it for like a half an hour. Remember the ESPN Zone, that restaurant? And I rewrote a script, like 10 minutes for SportsCenter. So then we recorded it and I sent it to a contact that someone gave me at ESPN. And I was thinking he was going to tell me like it was great and he was going to sign me. Like my head was so big, it was ridiculous. I was like, this is really good, and he ended up telling me it was like the worst tape he had ever seen. So I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, that's literally what the word right. Yeah.
Wait a second. What I want to know is, where does that confidence come from? Like, you were just like, yeah, this is good. Okay, let's rent this out. Everybody help me, takes a village. And then you send it in and you're like, you can't wait for that phone call. Like there's no doubt in your mind that this is good. Where does that confidence come from?
I think it would have come from going from this 5'7" nothing of a player to getting myself honestly to college by hustling to get a scholarship. So I did it's almost the same path to get the ESPN as I did in college. Because I wasn't getting recruited. So I made my own tapes in the basement, wrote letters to college coaches. And I ended up getting to college on a softball scholarship because they didn't have any more basketball money left. So I was like, hey, well, I can play other sports, let me try. And so it was kind of like this big hustle just to get to college. So did that. And then the dream became, I want to play professionally in Europe. I did that. I guess it must have just been like, oh, well, you make a dream and eventually, it's going to happen. So yes, you're going to get a lot of roadblocks along the way, but like I had already seen 2 big dreams come to reality. So I think it was like an inner confidence after that. And I think I just didn't know what I didn't know. Like had it been this day and age where people are already being on social media so much, like thank God social media didn't exist because I probably would have been so insecure. And be like, no, I can't do it. But
yes, I say that all the time. It's like, for that reason, the insecurities that would come along with it when you're at a younger age. Don't get me wrong. It comes at my age now too, but younger, you're just so much more impressionable. And it's like, I could not imagine being in high school or middle school and having access to social media. That, and I'm also glad it didn't exist because I would have posted stuff that probably would have followed me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a rebel. No, I'm not, but I would have gotten in trouble for whatever I was doing. Okay, so go back to, this is me, I go all over the place. Okay, so go back to, you sent in your video, you sent in your reel, and he said it was awful.
Yeah. Yeah. And my next question was, why? Why is it so bad? If I would have just accepted it at being bad, then, we wouldn't be talking right now. Mm-hmm. And everything he told me, I was like, that's easy. I can fix that. Cause he was like, okay, well, your hair is bad. Your makeup's bad. What you're wearing is bad. The way you're sitting is bad. Your voice is bad. I was like, well, what about the content? He said, content is fine. I was like, okay, cool. So I can do the job. What you're saying is I'm not being more of me. Right. So, and it's true. I don't even know if I still have that audition somewhere, but I do have my first game, and it's just, I'm so stiff, and I get it. You're thinking like, I want to do what I think they want instead of who I am. And I'm like, yes. I know I got a big personality. Like, I got a big mouth. I got in trouble for it all the time growing up. So like, let me just be me.
Oh my God. Yeah. Say that again. That is so good.
I think it's just the fact that we're always trying to think about what other people want from us instead of just being who we are and giving the best of what we can give. And people will receive that. Like, if you love something, people are going to feel that love. It's not even necessarily like, oh, this person does a great job at speaking. It's like, I can hear that she's really passionate about basketball or passionate about, helping kids or whatever it is. So that was the key. And I could take all the pointers that he said, and I could go to Mac and learn how to do makeup. And I could ask my friends who dressed way better than I did, like, can y'all help me? I went to Second City and I took improv classes to learn how to, just roll with it. I took voice classes with actors. That was like so uncomfortable, but it taught me how to speak more powerfully and breathe from my diaphragm rather than from my chest. So all those things put together, and I just bugged the hell out of him for like another year. And he finally gave me a game.
Stop it.
Yeah.
So you kept coming back. Did you make more reels and get like more advice, or like, did you finally send one a year later and was like, here it is, it's better?
I just kept calling him. And I think eventually he just got worn down, or like, he's like, oh, this girl's not that bad. Let me give her a shot, and thank God he did. That was 2004. So he gave me 2 games in 2004. Mm-hmm.
That's
and I still had
incredible. Like, this is with ESPN. Am I getting that right? Or is this with?
Yeah, it was ESPN. It was called ESPN Regional at the time because they had a very small office in West Virginia. So I got 2 women's games the first year. The next year I did some sideline football, which I realized was a beast of a sport. Very, very different than basketball, and a lot harder than people will ever give it credit for. So that was like the early goings. And I had kept my corporate job all the way up until 2012. So I would do, a little bit more of games every year, and then go back to work Monday through Friday, in like scrap metal recycling sales or steel sales, which is like the 2 most opposite ends of life. But I was like, cool, as long as I'm in this business, I'm going to figure out a way to go full time.
Yeah. So I was reading that in your bio, and I was shocked to see that you had a full-time job doing the complete, literally, like it was opposite. Like,
literally selling. Well, at first it was scrap metal recycling. So you're selling the service of picking up scrap metal from manufacturing companies. So you might be like carrying, if you make stainless steel refrigerators, right, you're going to have a big cutout of the door, and then you're going to have leftover. So all that leftover is valuable. So I might come to you, Jahaan, and be like, hey, I can pay you $1 a pound for your scrap. And he'll be like, well, somebody down the street can pay me $1.10. And I'll say, okay, I can pay you $1.10 and I can pay you in cash. So maybe you have 40,000 pounds of scrap. Maybe I show up with $40,000 in cash in my hand. And like, I was obsessed with mafia movies growing up. So I was like, this is my real game. This is my gangster mom. So I'd be walking around the west side of Chicago sometimes with like $40,000 on me. And although it was really exciting, I was also like sweating like just bullets. I'm like, I gotta get rid of this. But yeah, I would do that for a week and then get on a plane Friday, come back Sunday night or Monday morning, right to the office and start cold calling again.
Wow. What was your mindset around that time? Like, I know it's like, you got to do what you got to do, but I mean, were you thinking like, oh, this is going to go on forever? How long? Like, were you antsy, like to finally just like, no one's career is linear, right? And like, I get it. And like, I love this example because it shows that like, you got to get creative sometimes to get to where you want to be. So like, what were you thinking through that process? What was your mindset like?
Thank you for asking that. And that's a great question because it was hard, and not just because the hustle part of it wasn't hard. Like I was somebody that I've always enjoyed working hard. And I was also starting not to love my sales job. The recession happened in 2008, 9. And so it became just a struggle. Like we saw prices drop, tons. And it was like, you just thought like the whole world was shutting down at the time of the economy. So it was heavy. Like that was heavy. The real estate market was heavy. I was in a relationship that was like totally bringing me down. So broadcasting was the one thing that kind of like still felt good. And I just remember going years of feeling numb until like I could do games and things like that. So it was like everything outside of that, my other professional life, my personal life, I felt numb and was miserable. And then I would actually do this job and be like, you know what, this is really fun. And I ended up getting laid off of my sales job in 2012. I had made it through like 6 rounds of layoffs. So when my time came up, I was like, all right, this is a sign. This has got to be a sign that it's time to go try full-time for broadcasting. Uh-huh. So once again, like I just, I picked up the phone and started calling people that were, heads of networks that could make decisions and just being like, hey, I'm out here, can I get a couple games from you? And I did the freelance thing for 4 years from 2012 to 2016. And then thankfully got signed full-time to ESPN in 2016.
Wow.
So you're right. It's not linear, man. It's like up and down and backwards and like, oh my God. Am I going to pay these bills? Like, what am I going to do?
Yes. And that weighs on you. And then you were saying like, right, your relationship was in a tough place. Like you were feeling numb and miserable about your full-time job, but you had to pay the bills. And then you also had to show up as the best version of yourself for any freelance projects you were taking on that were in the work that you love, which is hard to do.
Yeah. Right? That's a good way to put it. Show up as your best self. I remember there was games where 15 minutes or an hour beforehand, I remember one time, it was like 2 hours before the game. Like I found out my dad had a heart attack. Right. And so I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't get home. My little sister called me. She was freaking out. Okay. But 2 hours later, you're not going to know that on the air. There was another time where it was literally 15 minutes before I went on the air. And a friend of mine texted me and was like, yo, I just found this out about like your relationship. And I was like, it was like a bomb, right? Like somebody dropped a literal bomb, like, oh my God. And I'm shaking, but and I don't even want my play-by-play partner to know that because I'm not trying to put that stress on them. They don't deserve that.
Yep.
But inside, like my stomach, like I'm shaking. I'm shaking with anger so much, but like, boom, those lights come on and you're not going to know it. And that was really a skill that I had to learn how to develop to be emotionally professional, like no matter what was going on. Mm-hmm. And, fast forward to a couple years later, I worked the day that Kobe passed away and had to interview Sabrina Ionescu. And we found out Kobe died an hour before the game. And, it's like, you got to hold it together because, you're on the air, like you don't have that space to be able to grieve yet. So, trying to get through the game and then have to interview Sabrina, who was a very close friend of his and Gigi's and the whole family, was like, oh my gosh, and it kind of brought me back to those moments of having to regroup and like, hold it in. And then, I went back to the hotel and just lost it. So it's just wild, those moments.
They are. And I love what you just said, emotionally professional. It sounds like you were thrown in the fire. Tell us like what that like looks like. Like, how do you, if someone's listening, like, yes, I need to be emotionally professional, because I'm a big advocate of, if you are emotional, it is like you do you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I will cry. Like I've cried in meetings with managers before because it was what I was feeling and I had to let it out. But like sometimes when you're on air, so if there's any future broadcasters listening or broadcasters listening, like how do you do that? How do you kind of hold it all together? Like you said, you wanted, like you were your best self when you were finally authentic and cracking jokes and being sarcastic. So like, how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I think for everybody it's different, but I mean, I definitely asked for help. I prayed about it. I was like, look, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. So it's really like, it's out of my hands at this point, but certainly things that you can do is, go take a break somewhere, just breathe. First of all, you got to breathe. If you need to write something down, if you need to call somebody, even if it's for 5 minutes to vent. I have a couple friends who, one of our rules is whatever, like, are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
We sure are.
Yeah. All right. So whatever like shit we have going on, those first 5 minutes, let it all out. Like give me your shit. I'll give you my shit. Like, let's just, because you got to be able to express yourself to somebody. So if you can have that person maybe on call, those moments. And then like, what is the bigger purpose for you in that moment? You're like, you know what? I'm not going to let this text message stop me from what I want to do, which is go full time at ESPN. Like that dirty bird is not going to stop me from getting to my goals. Like, no, and it's like, then I get angry about it. Or, knowing like, my dad had just, gone through the heart attack. It's like, okay, yes, I am very emotional about it. And there's literally nothing I can do right now to help the situation. I can't I can't leave. I'm here to do my job. So let me hone in and focus. And, for people who are getting into broadcasting, like a lot of people might have been athletes before. And so you got to lock in just like you would in a game and use that same mentality that you did when you were training, when you were tired or didn't want to be there. It's like, okay, let me shut that part of it out. So it's not easy. And it's not like, I don't know how I did it, just had to do it. So I did it.
No, and I think you gave some tangible things too. And I think the biggest one is let it out. Don't hold it in. So if you have to like step away and make a 5-minute phone call just to scream and yell and then go back to what you're doing, like whatever you do, you don't have to bottle it up and act like it didn't happen. Like go talk to somebody, like just call your friend, phone a friend and have a conversation and then get back to work.
Yeah.
The amount of times that I personally, when I was young in my career, would keep things in because I felt like I had to be professional at work and I had to show up and I had to be my best. You know what I mean? Like it is just, it manifested in a way that like was not healthy, like for me.
It's going to come out one way or the other. Either you're going to explode on somebody or it's going to physically come out and you're going to get sick. Like, I mean, I'm no doctor and I feel 100% certainty that I developed Crohn's because of all the stress. I would remember like my stomach shakes when I get really stressed out and I can't show it. And yeah, like after that happened, not too much longer later, I got diagnosed with Crohn's. I was like, that's definitely what it was. Like, that's not me getting this disease. It's like, no, this is the stress.
Yep, exactly. Just talking about it, even if it's therapist, whatever, just do it. I'm the same way. I talk about in one of my episodes, I talk about anxiety and I gave a little snippet in how it got to me. And it was about I just let stuff build up, kept to myself, how to be tough, how to be good, how to be, you know what I mean? The strongest one. And I didn't talk about any of the things that were bothering me to anybody. And this is a little different, right? I'm not about to be on stage and go on air, but I find like finally my manager had to take me to the hospital. And now I'm thinking, because I'm dizzy, like I can't function. Like I literally cannot function. So I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like I'm dying. Like, right. Like worst case scenario. Like I literally thought I was dying. And they did all the tests. He was like, you just have anxiety. Yeah. I was like, no, I don't. No, there's something wrong with me. I have a tumor. Like there's no way. Like this is just like mental. Like, no, I don't believe you. That's what it was. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I'll just go back and say, like, it doesn't matter if you're going on camera or on stage or anything like that. Like you still have to feel like you have to perform, around your coworkers and your manager. So women, sometimes we're so afraid of the stigma of being emotional, which is bullshit, that we hold it down on purpose. And like I said, it's going to come out one way or another. So yeah. So to hear you say like, you had that experience is just that's so sad, because so many of us do treat our anxiety that way because we're afraid of being labeled as crazy or angry or emotional or whatever. It's like, show me a man any day and I'll show you how emotional he is. Come on.
Yes. I mean, absolutely. I feel the same exact way.
Hey, Jahaan here. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I'm sure you are thinking about your own career right now and how you can pull out in front of the pack to take your career to the next level. For 18 years, supporting women in sports has been my favorite part of my career, and I would love to support you. Whether it's joining my free Game of Her Own community or one of my one-on-one coaching programs, I am here for you. Send me a message at jblake@jahaanblake.com or DM me on Instagram @jahaanblake, and let's schedule a time to have a free session. I cannot wait to hear from you. All right, let's get back to why you're here.
So now you are going full time. You're out there getting all of these gigs or contracts and work to do. How do you, because you're in an interesting position, right? It's almost like, please correct me if I'm wrong, but at this point, you don't really have any leverage, right? Because you're still trying to get in full time. How are you advocating for yourself and making sure they're not undervaluing you for both the contract work and then when you became full time?
Oh, wow. That's a great question too. Because I didn't come from a big school and have the accolades of a national championship or Olympic gold medal or anything like that. So yeah. And I think as one thing as women, we all find it very hard to do is express our value and ask for a raise or ask for a promotion or more games or a bigger contract. And I remember, having that fear. And I heard Doris Burke talk about this one time too. So it made me feel better. Every time a contract renewal comes up, I'm like, am I going to have a job or am I going to be an Uber driver by next week? Like, you really don't know. And yes, it's a fine line of advocating for yourself and not being demanding or asking for more than sort of they kind of hold that value for you. Because I don't have an agent, and it's something I probably should have so that somebody else can speak on my behalf. So I think the key to that for me has been, rather than trying to impress my bosses or say like, hey, I have value, it's like focus on doing a really good job, build relationships with coaches, with players, with folks in the conferences, be nice to the crew that you work with, value people that you're around all the time. And then your reputation sort of going to speak for itself without you having to speak on it. Even though like my bosses, like they aren't at the games, they watch as much as they can, but there's like 5,000 games. So there's no way they're going to be able to watch everything or be, I might see them 2 or 3 times a year at most. When I do have conversations with them, I want to come with something of value, like, hey, here's an idea I have for this season, something I would like to share, some creative ideas that I think might add to the game. Or I might call and say, hey, I'd love to like watch some film with you and get some feedback, or just anything that isn't like, just like, hey, I'm just calling to, check in, or, just trying to build a relationship without being too much. And I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. I don't know what that fine line looks like. And it's an interesting, delicate dance. But I think if you can always go back to like, let me focus on doing the best job that I can do and giving 110% to what's in front of me, then I feel comfortable and confident about, like I said, my reputation speaking for itself, so that I can continue to do this job that I love so much.
It is a delicate line to like walk and like figure it out. Because I mean, it all really has to do with the people you're reporting into and you're talking to and what's their style and what are they like. And sometimes you have to adapt I would say a lot of the times you have to adapt your approach to them. And so it's like almost like you have to like speak through a filter to them, right? And like what's important to them? How do they want to hear it? How do they digest it? Because you'll get through a lot quicker if you do it that way.
I've taken a series of seminars that I think are just super valuable for anybody to take. And one of the main things I wanted to work on was like to stop being afraid of like corporate people. Like I was like, why do I get so nervous? Like when I go and sit down, in front of somebody that's in an office or something like that. Like, what is that mentality that is a block for me? So that was something I needed to try and get over. And I feel like it was the same mentality that was also like, I was afraid of being in a boss like position. And I was able to get over that as well. So like now I'm good, but it was interesting because I think those two things were kind of tied to each other in some way.
What made you want to like explore that?
Honestly, the first thing was relationships that needed to be better. And I had a roommate at the time that had gone through these seminars and was like, she was bugging the hell out of me to do it. And I was finally like, oh my God, fine. Like I'll go, and I ended up going, and it's intense. Like it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And you get some breaks throughout the day.
Oh,
yeah, it's for real. But to me, I got more out of that weekend than I ever have with any therapist ever. And you literally watch not only breakthroughs in yourself, but when people share stories about themselves, it's almost like sometimes you see yourself step outside of yourself and you're like, oh my God, I do that, or that's me. And it uncovers blind spots or things that have been holding you back. And like, you're also watching other people create new relationships with money, with fitness, with their mom or their dad they haven't spoken to in 15 years, with their boss. Like, and by the end of the weekend, you're just like, oh my God, this is amazing. You want to share it with other people. And then when you try to share it with some people, sometimes they're like, oh, is that a cult? Like, are you doing? I'm like, do I look like I'm in a cult? But seriously, do I look like I'm in a cult, because they're like, what is it? And it's like, yo, just come, just try it, just go, just do it. So
that's so funny. So you now have become like your roommate and are trying to like push people to go. You're the pusher now.
I'd like to say I more like want to enroll, because I'm like, what would be an area of your life that is important for you to have a breakthrough in, because we all got that. And it's just trying to help people see for themselves, like that's possible in this seminar. Like it's possible, because I wouldn't have thought any of this. I didn't even want to be there after the first day. Like I was like, this is stupid. Why am I here? And I just kept going back. So finally, by the end of it, I was like, okay, I got it. I'm good. So yeah.
That's kind of how I view like Tony Robbins. Like everybody, like I love his work, but then for some reason I'm like, I don't know. His like, seminars, workshops, whatever you want to call them, his events, like it seems pretty cult-like. But people I respect go. And they leave and they're like, that was the most amazing thing ever. I'm like, I still can't do it. Okay. So now you're making sure that you're not undervalued. You're getting paid your worth and you are out there paying your dues, right? And trying to get in. I read something that said you're one of the few female analysts who regularly call men's college basketball games. Like, does that bring you joy and like frustration at the same time? Right.
Well, I'm happy to see that I probably should update that, because that's actually like not the case anymore. I think
tell us more
of that. Well, I mean, I think like look at the NBA, right? I mean, you've got even like Christy Tolliver on the bench, like Becky Hammond as a coach. You got, Monica McNutt doing her thing. Like she's everywhere calling, men's games, women's games. So I think at the time it was a thing to look at as like, oh, this is unique. But yes, it's equally as frustrating. Mm-hmm. And I want to, I give props to ESPN, because I think that they have embraced opening up all kinds of, like, they want to see diversity in sports. They want to see diverse voices out there. And they've been true to their works. Like I remember even hearing this be a company priority back in like 2004. I felt like immediately I started to see different voices on the air. Yeah. So I think they've done a really great job, and, they've kind of influenced other networks. Like, not that I watch a lot of Fox, but I think like they've finally embraced putting women on men's games when like Fox is so old school. Like they weren't trying to do that, ESPN's been a leader in that space for sure.
That's a great place to be. And this is outside looking in, but it's incredible that still in 2021 that there's so many people that have strong opinions about women being on the sidelines or calling games or just anything broadcast journalism. It blows my mind. The anger comes from when I hear it from other women. Like that's what like breaks my heart and makes me so angry.
Yeah, that's always surprising, isn't it? You're like, aren't you supposed to be my sister? Like, what are you talking about? What's your deal? Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, we're on the same team. Like, I don't, what did I miss? Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but there's enough space for us all. And like, if you don't like hearing a woman on the game, then press mute. I don't know what to tell you. Like, we're not going anywhere. We're not.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. Like, and people say, oh, well, it's like, what I'm used to, it's tradition. I was like, think about that. Think about what that really means and what you're saying, and how many things in the world were based on tradition and have evolved and changed. Like,
oh, well, this is the way it's always been. It's like, that doesn't mean that it's right. That just means that that's the people that were in power at that time made those decisions and like didn't think about other people. It's like when the Constitution was written, there was 4 white men in a room with some pens. That's not representative of America. That just means they were in the room when it happened.
Exactly. And to your point, if you don't like it, press mute. Watch the game. All right. Tell us a little bit about your nonprofit.
Yes. So it was funny. I was just actually creating some events for the holidays. The nonprofit is called Skills and Score, and we put on free sports and arts camps for Chicago public school kids. Primarily, that's meant basketball camps because that's kind of what we know. We've also done tennis. We've done yoga. I've done a dual broadcasting and basketball camp at the same time. So the broadcast kids ended up covering the basketball kids, which was pretty cool. That was a fun experience. We got started in 2017, and I have an amazing team that they've put their time in to volunteer to really kind of create the energy that's needed around those events, especially with like the pandemic. Like, kids, they needed an outlet for their energy, but they also were kind of like not knowing how to be social again. We work just as much on fundamentals and basketball skills as we do on how to connect with each other and communicate with each other. So it's like, hey, try to find, 2 or 3 new friends, people you didn't know by the start of this camp. And by the end of the camp, I want you to tell me like 3 new names you learned, or like at the end of every day, we'll get together and have them say one thing that they felt like they did well, or point to somebody else and be like, tell me something about somebody else that you like about them or that you learned from them. You have to create connectedness now. Like, it doesn't just naturally happen like it used to. So it's been really fun. And I get so much joy out of watching someone who, even if they're like the worst athlete in the world, by the end of that week, like you will have gotten better simply by being in the gym and being around all the positive energy and the skills that we teach. And for a kid to walk in grumpy face, like, my mom's making me be here or whatever, like, and then they leave and they're happy because they learned something and they're confident. That is the most rewarding part for me, is watching that happen.
Oh, I love that. Do you need volunteers?
Always. Yes.
Oh.
So I'll let you know. I got some dates coming up.
All right. Okay, good. Maybe and we can link to it in the show notes for whoever's local.
Okay, cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I'm in. I've been thinking, I was like, I need some like just fun volunteer work where like I can just like, show up and do it and then just go home. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where I'm not like the orchestrator, like, I want to come in and help and give back. I need someone to tell me what to do. I have to make decisions all day long and I don't want to make them. I just want to have fun.
Yep. And that's perfect. You come in and you can hype the kids up, or like, we tell you like, hey, make sure they follow through. Like, even if you don't know anything about basketball, you can be like, hey, follow through. You're like, good job. Like, that's literally all you have to do. So
I can do that. I have 0 basketball skills, like 0, but I understand follow through.
There you go. A lot of the volunteers they didn't play either, but they like some of the best, like my director of community and my director of operations, they both work at Nike. And so they're always just, they're not athletes, but they're just around sports all the time and around kids a lot. So, it's fun because they always come with like game ideas and stuff. So we have a great time.
Ooh, fun. All right. Speaking of fun, are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Yeah, I like the rapid fire. I feel like I'm not good at them, but I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm not good at them either.
I throw rapid fires at people. I'm like, come on, this can't be that hard. And then they ask me, I'm like, I don't know. But yeah,
I want to answer and give a whole explanation.
Yes.
All right. 12 easy questions. First thing that comes to mind. What is your favorite sports moment?
Jordan's last shot.
Oh, what is something people always get wrong about you?
that I am intimidating.
Yeah, I don't see that. What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Sushi.
Are you a morning or a night person?
A morning.
Same. Favorite holiday?
New Year's Day.
New Year's Day, huh?
Yeah, not even New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
Oh, what is it about New Year's Day?
It's like refreshing, and I feel like people have like a renewed spirit of things, and it's usually like it's right when basketball like kicks off and gets going. So I like the thought of that. I am not a big Christmas or Thanksgiving person at all, which probably get me in trouble, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm the same way. I like Halloween the best. Like I'm good with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
All right. What job? Oh, I can't wait to hear this. What job would you absolutely be horrible at doing?
Oh my God. Oh, a hotel maid. I'm grossed out by loose hair. And so the thought of that I can't.
Me too. Wait.
Well, because I'm like, I can only imagine the things that you have to deal with here.
Do you know that I get grossed out by my own loose hair? Like that's how much loose hair bothers me. I'm always like, oh, I'm like, I shed like crazy. It's horrible.
Yeah.
What products would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
Topo Chicos.
Good stuff. What's your favorite app?
I love to hate Instagram. I hate to love Instagram.
Same.
Yeah.
Who's your biggest inspiration in life?
The WNBA as a whole, like whatever they're doing, I feel like they move the needle. So the WNBA, I love them.
Yes. All right, good. That's how I felt about the was it the WUSA when I was younger, the soccer, women's soccer, same thing. I was just like, this is just like, I'm like, you're doing it. You're creating it. Like, it's amazing. Yeah. As a child, what did you wish to become when you grew up?
Professional tennis player.
Finish the sentence. The future of women working in sports is
growing, getting stronger every day, and is going to continue to push any women's game ahead. Like more women in the sport is a great thing.
Yes. Good answer. That was like a good full sentence. I liked that one. Brooke, this has been amazing. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing it?
Yeah, you can definitely follow me on the app We Love to Hate, Instagram, Brooke with an E Weisbrod. You can also follow me on Twitter, just at Brooke Weisbrod. Really not on Facebook much, so probably don't hit me up there. Yeah, and then you can watch college basketball this season. And you can watch the Diamond Head Classic because I'll be spending Christmas in Honolulu.
I feel so bad for you.
You gotta do it. I know. It's a sacrifice, but whatever.
I immediately felt jealousy.
This will be the third time, and I'm just like, how do I get so lucky? Like, I live in Chicago, and a couple of years ago I went, and it was 100-degree temperature difference. It was 75 when I left, and it was negative 25 when I came back here, and I was just like, this sucks. Like, what am I doing? Why do I live here?
God, I say that all the time. Like,
yeah, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't know. It's literally torture every winter, especially during COVID.
That hurts.
That's a whole nother podcast episode that no one wants to listen to. Brooke, thank you so much for your time. We all appreciate it.
Oh, Jahaan, thank you. This has been great. I appreciate it. And I mean, congrats. We are, wise women. So we got to stick together.
We are. Congrats to you too.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.